a PR perspective or a building the hype perspective, I don't think that James Gunn's Peacemaker, his HBO Max Suicide Squad spinoff, is quite there yet. You know, it doesn't have that big casting announcement, either a character or an actor, or both, that makes people say this is going to be able to stand on its own. Besides the coolness of movie talent, which is something that Warner Brothers is doing a lot, in fact, with HBO Max. But doing basically a long movie. In this case, 8 episodes. I mean, I think Brooks is a really exciting casting announcement, but that's not something that's getting the comic book community chatting. So I'll help out. I have a little tea to pour for you. And I think that this, James Gunn's doing an innocent misdirect with the origin story for Peacemaker. But I think this information turns up the volume a little bit on a project that needs to have the volume turned up more. I'm hearing from my sources that Peacemaker isn't an origin story of how John Cena's character becomes Peacemaker, but it's an origin story of how he comes to be on the Suicide Squad. Now, we've seen footage from Suicide Squad, James Gunn's upcoming Suicide Squad movie, with John Cena in a prison uniform, Idris Elba as well. So he doesn't, we'll see how many, we don't know if that's Belle Reve. Maybe Belle Reve has, different buildings, maximum security versus regular. Maybe there's like the Suicide Squad section is different. But it's basically how Peacemaker ends up in the prison system so that Amanda Waller and her crew have access to him. So I think that's a much better pitch. I actually like that quite a bit. I also hear that Peacemaker will mix it up with a few different heroes and villains in this adventure that goes horribly wrong and gets them in prison. So maybe there's still a casting announcement to come, which again is either a big name character or actor or both, which I think will cinch this for being something that again can stand on its own. But this how he came to be in the prison system information clicks with the casting announcements and why Steve Agee's Belle Reve Warden, remember Steve Agee plays 2 characters in James Gunn's The Suicide Squad movie. He does the motion capture for King Shark and then plays this warden from the comics. And then also Argus government liaison, Amelia Harcourt, played by Gunn's girlfriend Jennifer Holland in the movie, and now also it's been confirmed today in this show, why they're both in the mix, right? Why would they be involved in Peacemaker's origin story? But they would be keeping tabs on him. And maybe they even intentionally engineer it that he gets in prison. Maybe they're overseeing this and they pull the strings. That's the kind of stuff Amanda Waller and her crew do. So that makes a lot more sense. We don't want one of those situations like, I don't like it, and I know many of you don't as well, when they're like, everybody knew each other since the beginning. Our heroes and villains actually grew up together. And we're like, really? So this, I think, makes a lot more sense as a series and as a promotional tool for the movie. We'll talk about when it should air in just a moment. Now, you'll remember, speaking of how they got to the prison system, how they got to Suicide Squad, we were hoping for a similar kind of end credit sequence for Birds of Prey to see that kind of story play out, to see how Harley Quinn got back into the prison system as Belle Reve's revolving door. Is it Belle Reve or Belle Rev? But anyway, it has the potential to be as interesting as Arkham's revolving door. I think this is a very smart idea. Now, it was also announced today in terms of casting that T-1000 Robert Patrick and Orange is the New Black's Danielle Brooks have also joined the show as new characters Augie Smith and Leota Adebayo. Orange is the New Black, by the way, made a name for itself by casting outside Hollywood norms, giving opportunities to actresses that normally wouldn't have them, certainly such high-profile ones. And I can't tell you how happy I am that this talented cast has continued to find new work. From Uzo Aduba in Mrs. America, where she won yet another Emmy, totally deserved it, to Asia Kate Dillon in Billions, where they do phenomenal work, really phenomenal work. I'd say maybe my favorite character on the show, or certainly one of them. And then now Brooks. Also, Diane Guerrero, while she might be more in line with typical Hollywood, I think we should give her a shout out for Doom Patrol as well, because she's just so damn good on that show. And she was good on Orange is the New Black, but she's really shined, I think, on Doom Patrol. And then here's Vincent Chase, aka Vigilante. Remember, this was, speaking of misdirects, an intentional misdirect from Gunn for a while as to who Idris Elba was playing. He was referring, the character was referred to, in the circles of that film, so that it would leak and everybody would think he was playing, Idris Elba was playing Vigilante. But you know what? He kind of is, because Bloodsport, who he's actually playing, Vigilante and Deadshot, are all cut from the same gunmetal. And this might be a bit of an inside joke, by the way, to have Vigilante show up here. Chris Conrad will be playing Gunn's Vigilante, as announced today. By the way, Vigilante is a character who's already showed up in Arrow, as many of you know, where they did their own Suicide Squad prior to David Ayer's movie. A bit of a mess. That's not so much a judgment on Arrow's version of Suicide Squad, but how to launch a property, to fans. But anyway, Conrad's been working for quite some time in Hollywood, and it's worth noting that he played Johnny Cage in the very poorly received 1995 Mortal Kombat sequel. See? Never give up. Just make sure you keep working. And 25 years later, you too could be picked by a major Hollywood director to star in their upcoming HBO Max series. That's pretty cool. So yes, James Gunn's Suicide Squad spin-off Peacemaker is taking shape very quickly with this flurry of casting announcements today as the HBO Max show gears up to roll camera in early 2021 as previously reported by the trades. Now, if Peacemaker can move fast enough, it's already totally written, it's 8 episodes, it could even air prior to the Suicide Squad's August 6th, 2021 release date, especially if they do a lot of practical special effects and action sequences, which, Gunn did a lot on the movie, too. I mean, he has a lot of visual effects, too. But, he's a fan of doing that more down-to-earth practical filmmaking. So if he can do that here, that's not to say it wouldn't have a lot of action, it would just be done more practical. Maybe he could do that kind of a tight turnaround. It would be really tight, but it's doable. I think it would be great if the series could kick off the week of June 7th, 2021, and it would lead right up to the release of the movie, which makes even more sense if it's basically Peacemaker right up to that point where he's in prison to get recruited within the film. I think that would be genius marketing for the Suicide Squad movie, quite frankly. Now, the question is, well, HBO Max definitely needs the content, and it would again help promote the Suicide Squad movie brilliantly. What if the spinoff wasn't well received? Would it then hurt the movie? Considering HBO Max's current dire straits, and also just how this so perfectly plays into launching the film, I think Warner Brothers execs might just have to make the call and hold their breath and learn to live with it either way that it goes. And of course, we have to wonder what Gunn is planning. I think, again, considering how perfectly this plays into launching the Suicide Squad, it would make sense that that's how he designed it. Which, if that's true, again, this is what I'm hearing, but if it's true that he designed it this way, specifically as a promotional tool, to double as a promotional tool, that would be freaking brilliant. That would be really smart producing. I would really respect Gunn for coming up with that. That would be really great. And also, though, what if the movie doesn't connect? Again, the DC fandom trailers were the weakest by far of the group. So, greenlighting spin-offs of movies that haven't come out yet is tricky business. So I personally feel if you don't release it before, I don't know if there's really a point to it. But we'll see. I don't know if they can turn it around that fast. But I think they could. They just have to make the week of June, or they could let you binge it. If they let you binge it, HBO Max likes to do shows weekly, but if that would buy them a little bit more time, if they would let you binge it, and then they could have maybe an extra month and have it come out, sometime in July. That would be great. What if, that would be really, really smart. I think they have some options here. So when do you think would be the best time to air Peacemaker on HBO Max? And if this works, HBO Max could do more series about how Suicide Squad members end up in the prison system. Depending how things go with Harley Quinn moving forward, I would love to see the story of her going back into the prison system. She goes back in and out so many times, but I think it would be really funny to see that, just one instance. And if, Margot Robbie, she's very busy, and if she doesn't want to do an HBO Max series, she didn't want to do the voice on the Harley Quinn animated series, well, on that note, get Kaley Cuoco to do a live action version. I think that would be really fun. And I think it would still be respectful. That would mean Margot Robbie couldn't continue in the movies. This could just be a fun side adventure. If I were Kaley Cuoco, I'd be pitching that right now. I'd be like, oh, so we're doing how people end up in prison to be in the Suicide Squad, eh? Have you considered doing a live action Harley Quinn one with me? That's what Kaley Cuoco, and she's smart too. She's also a very smart business person. So she should get on that. All right, so what do you think? Share your thoughts down below. And does this get you a little bit more excited, if that's the case, as I'm hearing, that this is not an origin story of Peacemaker, but how he ends up in the prison system? And again, I'm speculating that maybe it's because it was made to be that way, by Waller's team. All right, share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.